Okay, so it is October 9th, 2019, and I had a friend of mine ask me my opinion on candy boards or feeding dry sugar, what have you, uh, and how to have that set up for the winter. Personally, my experience has been I've talked with people who that's really one important point about beekeeping is that there's usually a variety of ways to do things that can still get you a good result. But there's also a lot of variables depending on your experience, depending upon where you are geographically, depending on the year. That's one of the things that you can either look at as a good challenge or a bad challenge in beekeeping. I personally like it in a good way. I think it's a good challenge. Beekeeping is always dynamic. There's always things changing. But for me personally, I do not use candy boards. Um, if you're in February or March and you have a really good looking colony and they look like they're on the verge of starvation, dry sugar seems to have a lot of promise to it just due to the fact that it absorbs moisture as well. And so that can help your colony. But, I want to do some comparisons here, and that is that when I had bees in Manitoba, Canada, where you'll get 30 below zero, 40 below zero, we would insulate our hives. We would put, like the pink insulation and then tar paper around that, and then, insulation on the top. Michael Palmer, who's in Vermont, who has a lot of the same severe weather, found that, and I actually found this in my experience too, found that when you put that insulation around the hive, it not only insulates it from the cold, but if you get a sunny day, it also insulates the sun from being able to penetrate and warm the hive body. And so what he does is he just does tar paper or roofing paper around the hive so that it breaks the wind, but that, if you get a sunny day, that warmth can penetrate into the colony. We definitely do not have that kind of severe temperatures here on the western side of the Cascade Mountains. So I have found it very sufficient to set my colonies up if I'm wintering them up here, which I am wintering some of them, to set them up like this, which is just a top entrance, 3/4 inch hole, which I actually still have to do, but just this 3/4 inch foam insulation. I've got this plastic vapor barrier on top, and then as far as feed, I'm just going to work my butt off to try and make sure that a 2 deep colony, which this one is, I've got a medium on top of it too, but standard 2 deep colony, I'm aiming for a weight of at least 120 to 140 pounds going into winter, and they should have more than sufficient stores to get them to when it starts warming up enough in April to start giving them liquid syrup once again. And for those of you maybe just joining us, this is my winter setup. I've got half inch hardware cloth that I put in the entrance to keep mice out. And then the step here that I still have to do is I'm going to drill a 3/4 inch hole into the top. Super. If this was just like my usual wintering configuration, 2 deep, I would drill the 3/4 inch hole here so that they have a top entrance, which allows a top entrance for them, but also allows moisture to escape from the hive that's created from the aspiration of the bees. So anyways, overall, I'm pretty happy with the way things are looking. Things are kind of winding down. I'm happy with the overall weight that I'm experiencing. And here's another thing. People ask me about yellow jackets. So Here you've got a bunch of yellow jackets on the top of the hive. But once again, you know, I am amazed at how simple beekeeping can be as far as colony health if we're keeping on top of good nutrition, excellent nutrition, and making sure the mite situations are taken care of. There was a really interesting article towards the end of the October, I think it's the October edition, October edition of the American Bee Journal, which I highly recommend. It's $28 a year, once a month, great information. The author's name was Suzanne Cohen, and she was talking about her losing her first hive this winter, or last winter. Anyways, the thing I found really interesting is that she said she treated twice with formic acid, Formic Pro, 2 different times throughout the year, and then in the fall she used an oxalic acid drip, and her colony died. And so she took samples, sent them into the USDA, and the USDA discovered that she had 4 mites per 100 bees, and that the colony had died because of viral issues. And this is after she treated 3 times throughout the year, which underlines what this gentleman, who I owe a debt of gratitude to, told me in California, which is, you know, you just have to be incredibly aggressive with your mite treatments. And oxalic acid has some promise to it, but we had devastating effects with it last year. And so anyway, yeah, just really keep on top of the mite treatments, and you'll be setting yourself up. And getting back to the yellow jackets, this whole thing is, if a colony is strong enough, unless they've got a major like, see, they're fine. Like, it's a strong colony. The yellow jackets are on the outside trying to find a weak point that they can take to their advantage, but otherwise, I mean, the bees are being able to fend off the yellow jacket. Like, here's another perfect example. You can see that the honeybees there are at the entrance, and there's some yellow jackets here, but they're not being allowed entrance. So if your colonies are in good strength, as long as there's not a bunch of extra, like say a super is off or offset, allowing a large area for the honeybees to have to protect. Short of that, if you just have your main entrance and an upper entrance, if the colony is in good health, they should be able to maintain themselves very, very easily without issue. It's a little bit weaker of one. But here I am trying to work bees with one hand. Doesn't work too well. There we go. Yeah, definitely woke them up, whatever the case. But anyways, yeah, so there's the discussion for today. And so yeah, personally, the more the bees have a chance. Like, we started feeding the end of August, beginning of September. I was wrapping up some last minute feeding here actually last week. Some of them that were just a little bit lighter. They're still probably fine, but just topping them up just to be on the safe side. But my personal preference would be to just give them a good quality syrup early enough in the fall, late summer, that they're able to cure it, so you don't have a bunch of issues with excess moisture. Because that's another thing too that you'll probably find if I was to open up some of these that got the syrup last week. They'll have excess moisture in them due to them curing and bringing the moisture content down enough so that they winter well, or that the syrup is cured well, doesn't ferment. Let's have a quick peek here in our nuke. Yeah, look at that. great population of bees. That's a great population of bees, and that's on the third, that's in the third box, never mind our two here. So I've had some people ask me, how do you know if they're in the proper weight category? I tell them, I said, you know, if you go and hoist it and it feels like a rock, you're probably safe. But anyways, yeah, no, overall looking good. Happy with the way things are looking. These nukes are looking good. Got a good population of bees. And yeah, now we just wait and keep our fingers crossed.